Hello everyone! This is going to be a little tutorial about how to do a nice and proper forward fold. So if you're interested in that, just keep watching. Forward folds may look easy, but there is much more to it than you would think. So if you want to learn more about the do's and don'ts of the forward fold, then stay tuned. Over and over, I see people doing the same kind of mistakes when they do and practice their forward folds. To propel you a little bit forward in your own forward fold practice, I will go over all of these mistakes and will tell you what you can do instead. Stop reaching for your toes. Usually when you tell people to do a forward fold, the first thing they do is aiming for their toes. But if you reach for your toes and cannot really grab them, this is not going to help you with your forward fold, rather the opposite is the case. And this is because a whole bunch of other issues arise which are not going to help you on your forward fold journey. In the following, I will talk more about these other issues. A common side effect of reaching for our toes is that we raise up our shoulders. Despite this giving us the feeling that we get closer to our toes, we do not really create the motion that we want to have in order to get a nicer forward fold. Instead, what we usually get is tension in our neck. Another consequence of reaching for our toes is rounding our back. And in fact, this is rather getting us farther away from our toes than closer to them. This is, however, not our only concern. When we round our back and put a lot of pressure on it, but because we're pulling forward, our discs get also under a lot of pressure, and this can cause injuries. The last thing I would suggest you to avoid is dropping your head. We think when we drop our head we get closer to our legs, which is of course the case, but this is not really creating a nice forward fold. It is instead contributing to us rounding our spine, which is, as I said before, what we want to avoid. Instead of desperately reaching for your toes, I advise you to stop reaching for your toes at all. Instead, simply put your hands wherever they are comfortable. That can be on your legs or next to your legs. To have a nice forward fold, there is no need to reach for your toes. You can even have a nice forward fold with your hands next to your body. Only reach for your toes if you can comfortably reach them. Otherwise, just keep your hands next to your body. Pulling on our toes can help us to get a nicer forward fold. So if you cannot reach your toes but you want to work with a pull, just use a strap and work with the strap to pull you forward. Keep in mind that whenever you're pulling yourself forward, that your shoulders want to be drawn back and down, so you have a nice, broad, long back. In order to get a nice, long and straight back, you have to tilt your pelvis forward. So you rather want to think about a hollow back before you go down in your forward fold. It can take some time to understand where this motion comes from, so you can really spend some time to practice tilting your pelvis in both directions. What helps us to get a nice long spine is pulling in the navel. So before you lean forward, you breathe in deeply, pull in your navel, elongate the spine, and then you lean forward. If you do not pull in your navel inwards, but keep your belly outwards, it's not really comfortable when you do your forward fold. It's kind of in your way between the legs and the upper body. And it also doesn't really help you with breathing. So pull in your navel and try to breathe in your rib cage. If you're troubled sitting up straight with your navel pulled in and your pelvis tilted when your legs are straight, then just keep your legs bent and work on sitting up straight. I will later also explain how you can use a wall to assist you with sitting up straight. What can also help you in this regard is sitting on a slight elevation. You can take, for example, a yoga block or even a bolster. This will help you to tilt your pelvis forward and work on your forward fold. Keep your head up until the end. The head is the very last thing that touches your legs. You start, as I said before, the movement from your navel, and instead of getting your head down, you rather work on keeping it reaching up and forward. Instead of pulling up your shoulders, it is much better to push your shoulder blades down and together. You want to work on your forward fold with a nice, broad, long back. And as I said before, if you want to work with a pull, then also make sure that your shoulder blades go down and together. Before we start with the exercises, let's recap the key aspects you should keep in mind when you practice. First, don't focus on reaching your toes. Then try to tilt your pelvis to sit up straight. Also pull in your navel. And keep your head up and reaching up as well. And finally, pull your shoulder blades down and together. The advantage of practicing on the floor is that we do not have to worry too much about our spine as we are lying flat on our back. We can work on stretching both legs at the same time, but I do not really recommend that, as we tend to cheat and lift up our pelvis. But we want to keep the pelvis down to the ground and really work then there on the stretch at the back of our legs. I recommend to work just on one leg at a time. Don't worry if you cannot reach your toes. It's the same as in the seated position. Just grab a strap, put it around your foot, and work on the stretch with the help of the strap. When you work on your stretch, make sure that your leg is completely straight. As well, you want to keep your feet flexed. You also want to make sure that your other leg stays flat on the ground. As you lift up the leg, you get closer with your upper leg, but this is just because the pelvis is tilting, which is not really helping you then with your stretch. Of course, if you can easily reach your toes with your hands, you do not need to work with a strap. However, make sure that your leg stays centered, so rather close to your belly and not outside of your body. You can work on your flexibility and your mobility. You work on your flexibility if you pull your leg downwards with the help of the strap or your hands. You work on your mobility if you try to bring your leg closer without the help of your arms. If you want to focus on the stretch in your glutes and in your hamstrings, you pull your knee close to your chest and work on the stretch like this. Make sure that when you work on the stretch here, that you also do not lift the other leg as we did before. If after some time you want to intensify the stretch, you can straighten your leg. It doesn't matter if it's completely straight or just a little bit. What does matter is that you keep your knee close to your chest when you straighten your leg. The option with the wall is for those of you who are really challenged by sitting up straight with straight legs at the same time. All you have to do is getting as close as possible to the wall and sit up straight, which can be quite challenging, of course. An alternative, which is super relaxing, is doing the whole thing upside down. So your legs will be against the wall while you're lying flat on your back. In order to get into the position, you get as close as possible to the wall and roll yourself into the position. It might be necessary that you shift a little bit closer to the wall after that. And then you just lie there and relax. In order to get out of the position, you bring your knees to your chest and simply roll to the side. I hope you found this little tutorial useful. If so, give it a thumbs up and follow my channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. If you have any questions about the forward fold, you can post it in the box below. Thank you for watching. Servus!